coming at you. This is an occurrence that takes place, and only you understand the kind of sorrow or pain in your unique individual life and your experiences that make you break inside.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is an intense one. I'll talk about how I broke my thumb in a little bit, but I went to the ER on Wednesday, and Beth Israel, at that particular time, I don't know if it's always like this, it probably is. That was my first experience there, walking into the ER. But being surrounded in a 10-foot radius in this little chair with a curtain, with a little window into what was happening around me as they admitted me past kind of the regular waiting area and into the, this more specific area. Witnessing people dying, severe drunkenness, disease. Within a 10-foot radius, I'm experiencing all these different things. And it's starting, I'm feeling in my heart like I'm starting to break. I'm starting to even wonder, why am I here for a little thumb thing, Like, I need to get out of here. I need to just go put some ice on it. But it was so intense. And there was a sadness that started to break inside of me. We all understand our own lives. We look back into different experiences that we've had. Some of us are older, some of us are younger. Some of our experiences are different. But we probably all can relate to some level of pain and sorrow and individual hurt that really breaks us down. Another one, quite the opposite actually, and hopefully I'll get this, is laughter. Something funny, something humorous. There are times in our lives when we laugh so hard that we snort. All right, we have some hands going up, yeah, that's me. I'm a snorter. That's awesome. I love that. That's when I know I'm funny. You make a joke so funny that someone's snorting. I think that's awesome. So I see some people holding back snorts right now. It's awesome. Like, don't do it. I don't. We laugh so hard we start coughing. We start crying. Anyone cry so hard? Yeah. Sometimes we laugh so hard that we can't breathe. And some people have fainted because they've laughed so hard. In Proverbs 18:16 it says, a gift opens the way for a giver. There's sometimes that our hearts open, humor can disarm us, it could even break us. We'll talk about some of the opposites to these things in a little bit, but that's something, at least in my life, where it can really help me to break, to melt. The next one is, that's the look that you get when you're really convicted. Jeremiah 23:9. In Jeremiah 23:9, I love this passage. I don't know that I've seen this one before, and you can mark it down in your notes or you can flip there. It says, my heart within me is broken. And check this out. Because of the prophets. It says, all my bones shake. And later on it says, because of the Lord and because of his holy words. His holy words break me. The Bible. The truth of Scripture. As I'm reading it, as it's read to me, breaks my heart. I become the nishber alev. The brokenhearted. The shattered inside. The broken vessel. The insides have been torn out of me. Because I'm reading something, and the Bible sometimes is like a mirror, right? And I was watching a movie recently where, they're looking into a mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Maybe you're familiar with this story. And for a while, you're not sure if it's really the truth, and then the truth comes back. Sometimes the truth hurts. And it can melt us or not. That we're going to talk about what it might not do in a minute. But sometimes we're just reading scriptures. Many of us in this room, as Sawson was talking about his more than 2 decades here with us, as a soldier of Christ in the battle. All the different times that he and you must have looked at something in the Bible, or someone must have shown you. Now we get texted scriptures, right? And it's like, whoa, it just burns on the inside. And we're given a decision on what we're going to do with that, right? Are we going to allow it to break us? And then finally, one more that I threw in the mix. And this one is one more broken by kindness. Or love, gentle in this sense, something that is pure, that really melts us down. In Proverbs 25:15, it says, a gentle tongue can break a bone. Now, the power of a gentle tongue, of a gentle word, of encouragement, of kindness, when maybe you're expecting something else. And I don't know about you, but this is the one that gets me even more than the others. You know, and there might be others, like I said. As I was in preparing for this message, I was thinking about a lot of the movies that I have seen that are like this. There's a scene in there where there's just something so innocent or so full of love, or makes me think of something that's so kind that it breaks me. And it's amazing being in movie culture, how we can walk in to a place like this. The lights go out, we sit in front of a screen, and a digital image starts to take motion in front of us, and it can literally change our lives. I mean, that is amazing. And technology can be used for good or bad and everything in between, right? But I find it amazing how it affects me sometimes. I have to allow it to affect me. There was a scene in the movie The Patriot, and I almost showed it to you, but I felt like it would be a cheap shot. Because there's this scene, and it's many years old, so I'm going to go ahead and spoil it for you. But newer films, I'll give you a spoiler alert, and you can leave for a minute and come back. But this one's old. You know, Mel Gibson is a dad. He's got all these kids, and his youngest daughter, I believe, hasn't spoken. They think she's mute. And it's, for a long time, there's more to the backstory. And so there's times when he's trying to get her to talk, she won't say anything. And then there's a moment where he's about to go off to war, and it looks like he's not going to make it. Anyone familiar with this movie? Yeah. In this scene? Okay, you know where we're going. You're starting to get a little verklempt as we go here. But, you know, there's this scene where he's about to leave and get on his horse and ride off to war, and probably to die. And all he wants as a father is to hear his beautiful little girl say something. And so he's starting to cry as he's just hoping that she says something, and she doesn't. And so he gets up to leave, and then out of the... Man, I'm feeling it. My goodness. I should have shown the clip. He hears her little voice. You know, Papa, Papa. And it's just like breaks you, you know. It breaks me at least. And there's these scenes. Why? I remember watching Pursuit of Happiness for the first time. Like, guys, I don't consider myself like a sap or anything. There's certain things that just break us. And I tell you, if I'm ever feeling hard-hearted, I will watch America's Dream Home Makeover. Because when they build the house for the little boy who has brittle bone syndrome, and anytime he even falls on the ground, he breaks. And they build him a house that's completely padded, walls and floors and everything. It just moves me. It moves me. And there are things that move you too. As I was in the ER, I was saddened and I was moved and stirred by the things that I was seeing. But I tell you what moved me even more was watching the doctors and the nurses as they went from the person who's dying to the person who was drunk and sort of uncontrollable, and then to me with my thumb, and the way they dealt with such custom care to each person. I thought, wow. And maybe I just went there on a good day, but man, it was awesome. It was inspiring. And I said, Amy, she's like, my name is Amy. I wanted to call her Doc. I said, Amy, how do you do it? She said, it was hard the first year. I said, how do you go from this person to this, and then to me, and you have such a care, and you're not, you know, I understand that that's probably really intense, but you're still like asking questions, and you're focused, and you're this, and you're that. How do you stay empathetic, and how do you not get numb, and how do you do it? And I was just, she's like, I think she was like politely trying to answer my questions, but she like had to go and do the other thing. She's explaining how difficult it is. And I said, man, I just appreciate what you're doing. You know, this is one side. This is what breaks us. But on the other side, give me a second, Sean, it'll catch. There's another side that blocks us from experiencing these things, okay? And so I want to talk a little bit about that. When you go back to this first one, go ahead, Sean, just hit it one time. We can battle with this whole thing about like force and circumstance is going to take us out. And we can literally say, no, I'm not going to allow these forces to break me. And we go into denial mode. And these are all ways that we can sort of counteract what might be happening to teach us how to be broken in a humble way and in a right way. And so we can go into denial mode. We can say things like, oh, it's not that bad. All right? We can say things like, I got this. Don't worry about me. And what can happen, not always, this is not always true, but what can happen is we can avoid the full brunt of what that experience might have been able to teach us spiritually. Right. When we don't sit in it. And we say things like, it's not that bad, we can go into denial. Sean, hit one more. Not just sorrow, right? On the one side, we can really feel that sense of sadness which can break us and can be good. On the other side, we can be very stoic, right? Yeah. And we can say, no, I'm not going to feel that. I need to step up. I need to be tough. Right. Life goes on. And you know what? There's time for that too, but it's very tricky, isn't it? Yeah. It's very tricky stuff because, again, if we're not allowing what God might be doing in our hearts to humble us and to help us understand what brokenness means, the nish bet alev, the way that we can connect with God, then we might miss a lesson of a lifetime. Right. And we might get trapped and put our heart in that casket that C.S. Lewis talked about before. Yeah. Wow. With the humor on the other side, Sean, one more. On the other side of humor, we can become rigid. And we say things like, "Oh, that's not funny," or "I don't get it." Well, maybe we do, but we don't. These are forms of pride, right? And we even do this when there's really a joke, right? And we want to be sarcastic or quick-witted, or we're trying to make that person maybe look bad. We have the temptation to not laugh, right? Like, ha ha, right? That's what we do. That's very funny, right? And we can become very rigid in our way. I love, this is a good example of one of the things I appreciate, and I'm not getting political here, but I appreciate when the President of the United States, and there's been several, go on Saturday Night Live, and they sort of make fun of themselves. Look, I'm not going to get into all the reasons why they might be doing it, but I can appreciate the idea of being able to make fun of yourself. All right, to laugh a little bit at yourself. I was watching this documentary called The Interrupters. You may have heard of it. Where these are violence interrupters in inner city Chicago, where they walk in the middle of gang warfare and try to mediate conflict and have conflict resolution. And you're thinking about, and one of the things they talk about is being able to disarm the situation. Sometimes getting them laughing is all they're able to do. And one of the ladies who's sort of the head interrupter says that she's one of the most effective with the men gangbangers. And she walks right into the middle of these situations, and she gets them to laugh at themselves. That's powerful when we can get to that place. Next slide. On the other side of being convicted, we can instead not allow ourselves to break with the conviction of Scripture, but instead to argue against the Scripture and say, no, wait a minute. What's the Greek on that? Now, I don't think you have the right context. I don't think that applies to me. That's not really applicable in my situation. Right? We've all been there. And we can be on that side when God perhaps might be trying to pry bar open that casket and break your heart. Last one. And on the other side of kindness. Sometimes, and we can respond to this in different ways, but we are potentially moved and stirred by this kindness, by this scene, by this act, by this love. And instead, we might go beyond and say, you know what? I'm just feeling really pitiful. And you know what? I don't deserve this kindness. I don't even want to be around. This makes me feel uncomfortable. This must be a fluke, or maybe this is for someone else. This kindness wasn't meant for me. And that pity can actually replace the kindness that perhaps could help us break. These are all forms of pride that we can struggle with. Pride is so insidious. I believe it's Satan's best weapon in his arsenal of weapons to attack us spiritually. We talk a lot about different sins. We read lists of sins in our Bibles, don't we? But pride is talked about more than any of them. And it's the one that encompasses and even umbrellas many other sins. It's rooted in a selfishness, a desire not to break, not to be vulnerable. Next slide. So this is my hand.